They say that's what happens when you die, but I know I've seen the devil take her to that bacon burger palace in the sky, and she got too big for her body. She ain't never gonna get back in. She got too big for her body. She don't care about no mortal sin. Hey, hey. Let me hear the horns now. All right.
Yeah, hi, this is Detlef of Wake News Radio, Wake News TV here in our UNITEDWESTRIKE Radio Marathon. And we are here in our English-speaking part, and we just listened to Neil Foster with his Reality Bite. And he's still here for the next 15 minutes or so, or whatever he can make. And I'm also welcoming in Michael. He is also joining here to discuss matters with us here in the upcoming couple of hours. So, Neil, why don't you give us your website again, how we can reach you, or how people can reach you?
We have livepulsenews.com. We also have awakeradio.co.uk and awakeradio.us, where the TV players. We do TV 3 times a week at the moment, on Monday, Wednesday and Friday from 4 PM UK to 7 PM UK. That's 11 AM Eastern. And that's it really, that's the website. So we're getting busy over in the UK with the studio and getting some good stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, we are planning to be co-hosted by Awake Radio. This is will be done. I think we've tried last time already, but this time we had some technical issues. But will be done as soon as this is fixed, right?
Yeah, well, our internet's going to be cut off at 6 PM tonight, so we couldn't do the slot that Matt wanted us to do. So
okay,
we're going to repair the phone.
Yeah. So we are spreading the news, also new channels, and that's always very important.
Yep.
So okay. Michael is on a mobile device, so he is listening while speaking. So we will be listening to a little of noise on his side through the station, through the broadcast, but that's how things go. The technical advancements are not really as advanced as they try to tell us, right?
Yeah, right. My computer completely fried about a week and a half ago, and I tried to restart it over and over again over many days, and then one day I just pressed the button and it started.
Oh dear.
That's what. I don't know what's going on with it, but there you go.
Yeah, but that's the same thing like the health system. It is also the virus system, which is taking care of our computers. So we need assistance. We need to purchase additional programs, additional help on that one. You know, if everything would run smoothly, that would be not fitting into the system, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know where Michael's based, but we were talking off there about the local chemist or pharmacy, as they call them here.
Exactly.
Around the corner from me. They have adverts all over the car park, and this is not just one pharmacy. These are all the pharmacies across the country, apparently. Where they're advertising free flu shots, free shingle shots. I mean, free shots for anything, basically. And I mean, the obvious thing is that these companies would go out of business if there wasn't some profit motive in it. You can't just keep giving stuff away without there being some reason for it. And the reason is, of course, that those shots are going to make people sick, and they're going to go back into the pharmacy and buy all the cold medications or whatever, or even more serious cancer drugs or whatever eventually down the road when they get it. But interestingly enough, coming up to Halloween here, and you walk in a local chemist here, or pharmacy, which is kind of a general store, but it's called a pharmacy, and they have a life-size effigy of the Grim Reaper, complete with a scythe, standing almost right next to a sign saying free flu shots. So I've got a picture of that, which I'll be posting up sometime soon. But very, very appropriate. You know, the Grim Reaper is offering you a free flu shot. You know.
Yeah, send it over to me, please, via Skype if you can later on.
Yeah, I'll need to put it together.
You know, yeah, I can put it in our video, which we will be uploading as well.
Okay. Well, okay. A bit on global warming before I go. This is the total hypocrisy of all this rubbish. The Antarctic sea ice hits record levels as it reaches 20 million square kilometres for the first time since records began in 1979. They've only been taking records since 1979 for the start. That's the first thing that people should notice. Yeah. But it's covering 7.78 million square miles. Now, anybody who's had a look at Google Earth can actually see the Antarctica on there, but they never show you the Arctic on Google Earth.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just too big, eh? Maybe they don't want to show you. They show you Greenland, but I spoke to many greenies and said to them, how much ice is actually up in the Arctic? And they say, oh, it's about 50%. You know, I say, well, no, actually, it's only a part of 10%, because there's 90% down in Antarctica, and the rest of the ice on the planet covers the other 10%. That includes Greenland, which is a very large continent in itself. And like, oh, no. But this is, you talked about George Orwell when we were off here. Now here's some double sweet for you. They say that even although Antarctic sea ice has been increasing, the planet as a whole is doing what was expected in terms of warming. So the ice is increasing because it's getting warmer.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So that's the logic of it. It's just rubbish. They say that there's more melting in the Arctic than there is growing in Antarctica, which again is rubbish. We know that. I think how come all those ships got stuck up there?
Sure.
So I mean, the hypocrisy goes on. This is the Liberal Democrat Energy Minister switched our biggest power station from coal to wood, brought by diesel guzzling ships from the US. So we're importing wood from the US to burn in coal-powered power stations. The result, it costs us all a fortune and emits more pollution.
Yeah.
So that's how ridiculous that is, and this is how really stupid it is. They're now starting to give out grants to insulate your home. Well, if it's getting warmer, why would we insulate their homes?
Yeah, this is so ridiculous, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
That's that. I don't know what Michael thinks of that.
Yeah, Michael.
Sure.
Yeah, what's your point of view on that? On what Neil was just saying. On the pharmacies was a big reaper, free shots, and all the global warming issues.
Well, unfortunately, I could not understand most 60% of it because the sound was quite distorted. Okay. So I could not follow what he said, but unfortunately. But I wanted to bring up an issue about terrorist activity. Mm-hmm. So people should mind, actually, that all these terrorist activities always caused bloodshed with common people. And the bigger the number was, the better that terrorist activity was classified. So I thought, what kind of a terrorist group would like to have caused bloodshed with the common people? So basically, I thought if I were a terrorist, I'd like to hit all strategic places or strategic points like high voltage power lines to disrupt economic structures. If I were a terrorist, I hit those places or big factories or things of that sort. So it is clear that 90% of all these terrorist activities, they come from actual government, their government origin. And they cause bloodshed with common people to cause fear, to daunt the people, and to cause a threat. So they can, they can rule the people and make them more ruly, so to speak.
Well, that's a very good thought, isn't it?
Well, I totally agree. I mean, as we spoke before, the last 9 times out of 10 I've travelled on my own in the UK. I've been stopped and searched randomly, apparently. But I say to those guys, you really think a terrorist is ever going to come into an airport and try and blow up a plane when they can walk into a supermarket and blow themselves up? And that would cause real mayhem, because every supermarket in Britain would be shut down within minutes. That's real terrorism. And they kind of look at you as if you've got 2 heads. You know, why would a terrorist ever attempt to go into an airport? It's lunacy. The whole thing.
Exactly. That's also my opinion. So people should be wary of this, that it is actually government controlled. And you think about the times in Italy with the Brigate Rosse and Gladio and all the activity that's going on. It's orchestrated by the CIA and all these other people in the background. And it's very unfortunate that people don't realize all this.
Well, I mean, Gladio itself was proven. It was admitted to. I mean, it's not like a conspiracy theory. I mean, it was actually admitted to by Italian politicians. So we know it goes on. And if people think it just stopped after Gladio, then that shows you how much the brainwashing works. But we were just talking earlier on to Declan, the propaganda is becoming so ridiculous as to be clearly transparent as propaganda. And they're even talking about, I read the thing earlier about apparently terrorists are going to infect themselves with Ebola from West Africa and start spreading it around. But you can only get it by coming into direct contact. So we've all to go out and hug a jihadi tomorrow to get Ebola, apparently. You know, that's how stupid it is.
It's very obvious. Even the dumbest people should now get to know this. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Michael, that's a good idea to stress this obvious point, right?
Well, and I sort of come towards my theme actually is that people are that superficiality and callousness and indifference and lack of empathy actually makes the people vulnerable, and the status quo that we have, that is basically the reason why this could all develop the way it has developed, unfortunately. And that leads me to the spiritual background of the situation of human development, that why are things the way they are? And if you really had spiritually developed properly, according to the schedule of how the gods and everybody would have set it up. So it's like first degree, second degree, third degree, 10th degree, and so forth. If we would have developed properly, then World War I would have not happened. That's even what Rudolf Steiner said in his books. And he gave actually a model of the so-called threefold social order, how things can be done according to an ethical way. And if you all would have acted ethically, and that brings in the question of karma, in a way, I have to say we deserve the status quo because it's a mirror image of our spiritual development. So if you had developed properly, all these evil things wouldn't have the power to work the way they do nowadays. So we have to somehow also be a little bit, we have to ask ourselves whether we did all the jobs properly, which we didn't, unfortunately. So,
yeah, but whose fault could this have been? I mean, is it us? I mean, we are sort of a rebirth, or we are a following generation of some generation before us.
It's in a way collective karma. Suppose everybody actions, everybody thoughts, everybody's feelings, they're all sort of mounted in the Akashic record. So they call it the Akashic record, and they're all summed up. And then they look at it. How is the personal development of Detlef? Then Detlef is looked, okay, here is good, here he is developed properly, here is a little bit behind, and here is an advanced state of development. So if you sum it up, of all the people, the whole world that is being created now is sort of the summary of all that kind of development of all the human beings, so to speak.
Oh dear, so, that's a catastrophe then.
Well, I wouldn't say. Unfortunately, there's also some very developed people and some good-hearted people. I mean, it's not like that evil is dominant and we have no chance. It's definitely not like that, because the deed of Golgotha, the Christ, and all what he did, he is sort of easing off that kind of thing. So I would say that we have a fair chance to really develop ourselves, and that's why I sort of take it as an incentive to really everybody should work on their spiritual development, because that is actually the factor which determines how big the force is that evil can manipulate us, so to speak.
Okay, so the further we are sort of getting away from this matrix material world which they have set up for us, I mean, with all the traps like fiat money system, and you can only be happy if you are a millionaire and things like that. We should get rid of those ideas and rather concentrate more on our spiritual development. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, you mentioned it. It's materialism. And we focus all our attention, all our intelligence on the physical body and on issues connected with it. We have a soul and we have a spirit. We should look that we have an eternal kind of identity. We are not bound by this 80-some or 60-some years that we live on this earth. We have a past and we have a future. So we should, that is that God-given gift, so to speak, we have. And we have to reestablish, to have a religion to that old identity, that we are not time-bound. And that is actually the real religion. Otherwise, religion is only a storytelling thing. What is religion? Religion is something that gives us that supernatural existence, what we have. And the materialists have successfully sort of blown that out of our heads, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's what I gather. I mean, that's unfortunate. I mean, and it's also, they are telling us every day. I mean, if you remember this one song, this pop song, which comes to my mind is "I'm a Material Girl." I think that was done by Madonna. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that they are actually saying to us that they chose a life which is away from spiritual thinking, though Madonna today is acting in a different way, but at the time. So the entertainment business is basically there in order to hold us down. Isn't that true?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all these governments are there to distract us. I mean,
to suppress us, even, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
I'm happy that you are here joining in our UNITEDWESTRIKE Radio Marathon, Michael, because we wanted to discuss a little bit also the background of everything which is happening, because everybody who is curious enough, who became sort of conscious to the fact that we are living in a sort of a matrix, they are always trying to look behind the curtain, trying to get to the truth, and the truth is publicly closed to us. I mean, it's publicly hidden. But if you get into yourself, and if you are, I mean, I know, Michael, that you are doing a lot of work in this respective, area, that you are really reading a lot, and you are studying a lot of also, history and spiritual literature and so forth. So, but not everybody is doing this. So we also we try in our Wake News Radio and TV, and also in our UNITEDWESTRIKE radio marathons to bring things to the public in a way that they can more easily understand that there is more behind this than just the material world. So I'm happy that you've joined in and to help us to educate us, to give some information.
Well, I wanted to mention one point before about government. Actually, people mistake the institution government as institution to serve common issues and to be there to help the people. But government is an institution to brainwash and manipulate and subdue the people. And they want to subdue the people to the will of the ruling shadow government. That is the purpose of a government. And everybody should know about this and not have the illusion, government is an institution to serve us. That is ridiculous. They should know, about all this.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the Swiss national history, we have this Gessler hut, where everybody had to bow down, according to the story. We don't necessarily know whether it's really true or not. And in the end, the Swiss people are rising up to the fact that they don't want to do this. But isn't this sort of the same behavior, for instance, as an example, Swiss government is is behaving against their own population today? Aren't they sort of institutions where you have to bow to, like a Gessler's hut?
Well, actually, when I think about the Swiss government, I think they have a kind of a double-face kind of policy. Because on the one hand, they are there to say we have a direct democracy, so people can make petitions and so forth. But on the other hand, they themselves bow down before the U.S. interests. And so I find it quite interesting the way they sell their direct democracy. And it's a double face. It's basically a institution of masks. And when you study Machiavelli, for example, then you know all the strategic games, what they're playing. When you study Machiavelli, it is clear to you all the moves that they take. It's like a mathematical formula, what they do and how they do it. So basically, if you sum it up, common people are the enemy and are to be subdued. And what they do is just a variation of that theme.
Yeah, we were talking about this another day, another time, where basically is that the common man or human is basically just a copy of God. Maybe not as progress, but it is made after the appearance of God, or after the Spirit of God, if you want to. So maybe they are against God, at least the God which we mean.
Well, as you mentioned, human being has the spark of God, and we have to ignite it to be the sun. The Christ is a symbol of the sun. And it creates warmth and gives lives to the whole our planetary system. So basically, we are forgotten that we are becoming gods, and we are like they speak of the 10th hierarchies. We have the angels, the archangels, the dynamis, the creotities, and all these teachings of the hierarchies. And we are supposed to become the 10th hierarchies to work basically with God in his universe and help him to organize this universe. But in order to do that, we have to develop our spirit to be mature. We have to reach a degree of maturity, which unfortunately we haven't reached, and we're not up to schedule.
So you mean if we translate this into our terms, we have to reach a certain degree which we really earn, and not just get in with corrupting the teachers. So we actually have to earn our degree
Exactly.
before things develop.
Yeah, that is correct. You don't get anything for free. Also, not in this spiritual development. You have to have a maturity. Otherwise, because you're becoming potent. When you think, for instance, hot potato, in nowadays we are sort of, I call it low currency thinking. That means low current thinking means in low voltage thinking. Actually, I could say. So when I think hot potato, I don't burn my head. But when you are in the realm where the thoughts become the reality, when you think hot potato, you are the hot potato, or you have a hot potato, and you burn yourself on that hot potato. And for that kind of existence, we are not mature enough.
Right. So, but what is? Yeah, I mean, the normal question would come up now, which I express here is, what can we do? I mean, what do we do wrong, and what can we do in order to improve?
Well, as I mentioned before, we are much too superficial. We are too indifferent. We have lack of empathy. All what it says, the basic kind of teachings of all the religions: be loving, be open to you, be helpful. And
like the Ten Commandments, for instance, of
yeah,
the Bible or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's of course that is too coarse, that Ten Commandments, but it's much more elaborate in our daily lives. How the thoughts that we have friendly thoughts towards a stranger or towards a person that we meet, or that we are friendly, that we all behave like brothers and sisters. Basically, that's all.
So it's much more complex. So basically, the Ten Commandments actually just basic grounds. But
yeah, it's a common guideline.
More to it. Yeah, it's a guideline, right?
So, but unfortunately, there is this callousness around, this indifference, this kind of everybody's an opponent of ourselves, especially in business. The business system has been made out of to have opponents, and that is the wrong social structure. And no wonder things go wrong, because we are following these wrong models, which have been imposed on us by this shadow government.
Yeah, by entities which are ruling behind the curtains, and I was wondered, watching TV. Once I used to do this. I've stopped to do this, obviously, a few years back. But I heard somebody saying there are more people killed on TV every hour, than in the real world. So, and it seems like they want to propagandize the death and the murder and so forth via TV.
Oh, it's not only that. When you see all these horror movies and that kind of things in television, produced in Hollywood and other places, but predominantly in Hollywood, then you can imagine all that energy that you emit when you watch that kind of movie as a commoner. You sort of you transmit emotions of fear, and that causes sort of like a field around the earth. Everybody that watches that movie, say they watch simultaneously in a TV program, that is causing sort of a microbiological field of fear. And these negative entities, they suck that energy. That is food for them. They can eat it, basically. It's like food you have on the table. And with that food, they increase their energy. So that's why these kind of things make sense on that level as well, because that kind of people are not aware that with their generator of feelings, they have a generator of feelings, a generator of thoughts, and a generator of deeds. And with that, they're in constant communication with the whole cosmos, with the whole entire beings of the cosmos. And with that, they do a constant voting of whom they give the energy to, whether they give it to the good forces or to the negative forces. And no wonder when you give all your energy and spend it for the negative forces, no wonder the negative forces become predominant. And that's why you have, for instance, that easy game that these evil shadow governments have, because there is too many people giving energy to these negative energies.
Yeah, but isn't it strange? I can follow your thoughts on that, and I agree with you. But I've, in my publications I do on Wake News, I have tested, for instance, bringing out an article on a very positive thing, like, something is done to increase wellness for humankind. And the other one was on the opposite, writing about something evil, something terrible, something dangerous. And the hits on the one with the negative information were a lot higher than the ones on the positive message. So why is this from your point of view then?
Well, that shows how much corrupt we have become. Because if we were neutral, then of course we would like a story where the good friend helps another one, even though he got into danger. For instance, somebody helped to save somebody's life, and he put himself in a position where he was putting himself into a dangerous situation. That, of course, for me, it is much more interesting than all these negative things. Of course, I have to take notice of the negative things. I'm not an ignorant person, but still, I much rather enjoy kind of news where I see, somebody helped and he sort of went out of his way to help somebody else, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I admit you are right, most probably, and you have developed accordingly, but lots of people just haven't got it yet. So that's a lot of work to do, huh?
I think they have got it, but they have forgotten it, and it has been blown out of their mind deliberately by these negative forces. Because the way when you go to school and the way you're being brought up in our infrastructure, these things are strategically blown out of the mind of the children or of the adolescent people.
Yeah, that's why the educational systems all over the world, I mean, at least those who are under control of the so-called New World Order, which is already taking place, they are basically there in order to make sure that the evil entities are being fed well, right?
Exactly. And you can see it, for example, if you, actually I'm vegetarian, but when you grow up on a farm, supposedly, and you ask a small little 6-7-year-old boy whether he wants to eat meat, and then it comes to the point that they have to kill the duck, which was his good friend before. He would scream and make all big noise to support the life of that duck, and that is what I say. It's a clean instinct of that human being, that he comes down in a purer way, and that these negative influences have not yet absorbed him or gotten to him, so he still reacts in a natural way.
True. Yes. Well, I wonder, we were talking early on with Neil also on subjects like the Ebola and what have you, threats to mankind, whether they are real or whether they are just propaganda, we don't necessarily know yet. But I just read an article about India, what is taking place there, and learned that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who are supporting eugenics, they were just having a lawsuit here in India, and the highest court is trying to get on them. Also, they are behind, or they are also very skeptical of the World Health Organization. You remember they have these injections here for the Cervarix so-called illness, HPV and what have you. So there was a lawsuit going on here against those evil forces. Is this a good sign, or what? Well, why are they doing this? Are they not behind the same system? Is there a good part coming up, or what is your opinion on that?
Well, I think India has a long and old spiritual tradition, and I think they're vigilant enough to be careful enough also to look what kind of impulses come from the outside. And they should see that these Western impulses, and the one you mentioned by Bill Gates, are actually against their own philosophy, and they should take proper moves and steps. And I'm quite convinced that they do that, to block those kind of activities out. That is my opinion on that.
Okay, but that would mean there is a certain, we have to differentiate here. I mean, there is a government in India, and there's also, law and order in India, which is not necessarily all evil and all against humankind and all against their own people. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I have an example, because last year I think they got under pressure because of this food program. They subsidized the food program in India for the poor people. For instance, you can go and get 1 kilo rice at special government shops at maybe 10% of the official rate, in comparison when you go to a public shop. And certain kind of basic food things are there available, like sugar, like rice, like different kind of grains, and certain herbs and all things that people need in their daily life at 10% at the normal cost. So, for example, and the U.S. especially said you have to stop that program in order to, for the world trade kind of connection with the world trade. So India refused. And I think that's a good sign. That's why I have that kind of opinion that India is intelligent enough to stop that kind of activities.
Yeah, that's a very good example, and we should also talk about this. And I'm glad you're here, and you've got quite some knowledge about India as well. So I would appreciate.
I'm married to an Indian citizen, so I know a little bit about it, and I'm in connection, also in contact with her brothers in India. Some of them in India, some of them are in the U.S., and some of them are in Dubai. So right. I'm in touch with them, and they tell me from time to time what's going on over there.
Yeah, and it's also very good to bring up some examples of how other governments or other countries as such are behaving towards their bosses. Because isn't it in India the same thing? Isn't the sovereign the people really, or is this a different story in India?
Well, I'm basically it's a democracy, but it's not like a direct democracy like in Switzerland. That is clear. And still, there is government corruption here and there, and it's not all that 100% clean. Even Switzerland, by the way, is not 100% clean. But what government is 100% clean? So basically, I think when you look at what surrounds India, what kind of countries and the way their governments, in quote, governments are organized, I think India is very well in a good state.
Yeah, much better off than all the other countries which we are experiencing, which are controlled even more by banksters. But We also know that Rockefellers and so forth are very active in India as well. Can you feel anything like that? Is there a certain influence being recognized by the people over there, or is this not being discussed?
Well, I think they try to hook up into people with a common opinion, and of course, in India, it also has its people, its rich, filthy rich people, which are corrupt, and they try to get leverage over that kind of people. But where we have everywhere these kind of people, unfortunately, it's sort of like a collective family, and in India, even they classify that kind of groups of people. They call it the Marwadis, and the Marwadis is a business people that are not basically not very famous for their generosity.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course.
And so, of course, they try to get in touch with that kind of people, and they try to intrigate for their interests. That is logically. That's how these people operate. That is clear. That's how all evil operates. They try to integrate, and try to manipulate the world according to their whims.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we are always wondering. Everybody feels being suppressed by government, and this is even increasing every day. And the U.S. is an example. We'll be hearing about this later on, anyways. But there's a lot of police state kind of behavior. It looks like being a dictatorship. And this is an increasing development, and also in Europe, whether you are in the German-speaking area or somewhere else. I mean, this is all seems to be the same development taking place. Now, what can we do as peoples of the world, or Europeans and Americans and what have you, in order to prevent this, accelerating and taking over? What can we do as peacefully as we can in order to step against this? I mean, Gandhi is one of the incredible examples from India who won the fight at the time against the British. So, is this the way we should proceed, or do you have other ideas which come to mind, what we could do in order to improve the situation?
Well, Gandhi is a very good example, which we can follow up in all kind of situations today. Well, I think basically we have to ignore their power because they don't represent us. They're sort of like an outside force trying to dominate us, and we have to be aware of it. So we have to even get active, like washing and making the salt, like Gandhi did. We have to also, like an example with Russia now, we have to go and maybe do trading, individual trading with Russia, exactly those products which are on the embargo list. Or we get to know people of Russia, we invite them over here. So the activity of every person that on the individual basis, that is our chance. We have to wake up as individuals and say, okay, we take initiative, something is going wrong, and we try to steer it in the right direction by our own activities. And if we do that, the outside forces will lose power.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all the staff which is working for those governments, like even, those who are in the forces, they don't necessarily need to be part of the system. They're profiting from the income, possibly, or they are supporting the family member who's working for the government, but they are not necessarily part of it. So if they would set up some sort of pressure in order to say, hey, why are you serving them? If they are going into war, you may die, you would whatever. Could this help as well? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that requires a certain kind of maturity of consciousness, which, of course, that has to be there. That is the basics which you need. And unfortunately, the military, if that's what you mean, the military training, it is sort of it rules out categorically any kind of individuality and individual thinking and individual judgment, unfortunately. So that is being wiped out through the military training. There is nothing worse for a centered and a self-conscious human being than military development, because it makes you one collective robot. That is the game. That is the whole issue for that military training, to make you a robot, like l'homme machine, which you're there to function. That's your purpose. You're not there to think individuality. Shall I now shoot this person or not? Or what shall I do? Shall I put the gun in the corner, or shall I now read something? No. You have to take orders and execute orders. That's what you have to do, and that is completely inhumane. That is not the way we're set up according to our cosmic plan.
So that is, the same thing actually happens in those global companies or corporations, because they are training their management or their workforce to exactly follow the rules of the corporation and not not do anything else. They are paying for that for the service, and you just have to do this. Otherwise, you will never make a career there. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It reminds me of the scene in the Temple of Jerusalem, where the Christ came and it was occupied by all these basically by all these people that wanted to make a deal, and merchants there in the temple.
The money handlers.
Yeah, the merchants there, and they said, and then the Christ said, "Do you want to make the whole world a marketplace?" Or no, even he said, "You are there to make the whole world a marketplace," and he threw them out. And basically, also it was the point that there was also animals there for sacrificing animals like sheep and doves and kind of things. What they had there, he was so angry because that was completely according in disharmony of his philosophy. So the thing is, they like to make the world a marketplace. And because that is the major sin today. If anybody looks in a retrospective back on this world, they say, oh, these people of the 20th and 21st centuries, they were completely 100% materialists. They could not think that their spiritual activities and their emotions and all that is an active energy, and what all it impact it has. They were completely ignorant of it. And the only focus they had is that of material issues. And they pity us. They really pity us the way we have become distorted, basically, to our plan that the Creator has planned us.
Yeah, I mean, we all have to make a living, but we can also do it in a different way. We don't necessarily need to be a merchant to do our living. We could just, grow what we need and, consume what we need. And but the society, which has been developed through economics and so forth, and the service society, so to say, that is the bad thing. Is it what you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes. I mean, God has created this world so everybody can live lavishly in surplus, even. There is enough things, but if there's some people that are sort of hoarding gigantuous sums of money, which are the millionfold or the 10 millionfold of a commoner, then of course things go wrong. It is obvious. If you, for instance, if you have brothers and sisters sitting on the table, 7 children, so to speak, and one fellow, so to speak, one son of yours, he wants to eat all the food, and he takes food from different kind of children's plate. Then what you say as a parent, you say, hey, stop it now. This is food for your brother and your sister. Don't eat from their plates, isn't it? So unfortunately, we haven't come that far in our economic and our today's society. Because if that were the case, all these billionaires and millionaires would get hit on the fingers and said, hey, don't take the food away from your brothers. They have the right to eat and they have the right to live. So leave that out for them.
So I understand your example, but that would exactly say that our parents did something wrong. So
Yes.
our education was wrong. And
Yeah,
then
exactly.
who are our parents? That's the how can we identify them? Can we correct the whole thing afterwards? I mean, it's always more difficult to correct things than rather to do it right in the first place.
Well, our parents in that example of the political system is basically these people that have put themselves into a position of authorities, which shouldn't be there. You saw it in the Middle Ages. There was good kings and queens and bad kings and queens, and it was the luck of the time and the place where you were living, whether you had a good king or a bad king. If it was a good king, then he was very benevolent to the people. He was taking care of their education. He was taking care of their well-being. And he went amongst them to find out, as in disguise, he took a different kind of robe and dressed as a beggar. And he went there and asked, well, how is it with that king? Is it going well? Could there be done something better? And then, of course, he was going among his people there and ask all these questions. And then he was then sitting with his ministers and telling, okay, we can do some improvement. But unfortunately, there's been a selection of evil, and these people in power, they corrupted the system so much that always the wrong people with the wrong spiritual content, so to speak, got into power, in a position of power. And that is basically what you say is the bad parents.
So this was done by deception, or this was done by, how was it done really?
Well, there's a whole bag of deception, a whole bag of, when you look into the spiritual development, you have the sophist movement in old Greece, where all that Platon's ideas got corrupted and manipulated. Then, of course, a more recent one is Machiavelli, which a very good system of corruption and deception and intrigue. That they used all these kind of people in a negative way and build up their system according to their egotistic plans and ideas. And the other people which are also there, they're always good people there, but they're not being heard. For instance, like in Italy, when I placed the person from Florence, Machiavelli, there is also a person about 20 or 30 kilometers away, about 20 miles away. His name is Pico della Mirandola, and he was he was sort of an opponent of Machiavelli. And in his writings and his philosophy, it is quite benevolent. It is very much social, and he's the complete opponent of Machiavelli. But he does not get. He's not having any publicity, unfortunately.
That's yeah. I mean, we can learn this today. I mean, our matrix media, as I like to call them, or mass media, are just distributing those news which are wanted by their owners, right? and not what is really there. I mean, they're not really offering all the news which are available. They just select what the owners want them to broadcast, right?
Exactly. And that's why your work is so important, to give people an idea that there is a different opinion, and that there's different views on life, on our today's infrastructure, and of our today's society, of our common goals as human beings and as cosmic beings. And that perspective is being ruled out by these owners.
Yeah. And so we actually have to turn to the owners and have a look at them more thoroughly. But we're heading here towards our full hour. On top of the hour, we're making here a musical break, so our listeners can also have a quick coffee, and you might like to have one as well, or tea or water or something. And I would be very appreciative if you could stay on a little after that break. Are you still available, Michael?
Okay, till okay, we can talk about it.
We would have another hour, but as long as you can, would appreciate this, because we haven't discussed everything yet, which we could add onto the discussion.
Exactly.
Right?
That's right.
We will never end this discussion, I'm sure, but it is so important that we also have a look behind the material world and behind those who are really forcing us into our into our misery, right?
Yeah.
So everybody please stay tuned. We will be listening to our Tommy Truther, who's written a song for us, United We Strike. A great tune, so stay on, and we'll be right back after this. So stay tuned.
IC Radio Net.
Yeah, Detlef here from Wake News Radio, Wake News TV in our United Strike Radio Marathon. And we are in our English-speaking part, and I'm discussing very important issues here with my guest, Michael. And we've been sort of covering the background of everything which we can experience here in our 3D, three-dimensional world, which we can all not really comprehend if we don't look behind the curtains. And I'm glad Michael is here. And if you want to have contact with Michael, you can always send me a message to my email address, and I shall be forwarding this. My email address is radio@wakenews.net. So you're welcome to contact us, and I'm happy to forward this to Michael accordingly. All right, so I'm hearing Michael in the background. Michael, you're back in, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So, we, in the first hour, which we were talking, we were sort of generally trying to connect the material world to the spiritual world, and also compare in our, things happening to us in our daily life to what basically is connecting to the spiritual world, without going in too much of depth, what is really going on. So I would appreciate your suggestion, which we discussed in the break, that you want to give us some more insight of what really is taking place, for everybody who's interested in the subject. So please go ahead and and let's talk about this.
Right. Well, basically, when you are in today's contemporary life, you think, why is there evil? Why there's so much hunger in the world? Why are things going wrong? And people tend to think, well, that's the way it is. But that is not a proper answer, because the way the things are, because they are because they're wanted to be the way they are. They're being made the way they are by forces. And of course, you have intermediaries, and it goes, of course, to a spiritual level, to a metaphysical level. And of course, you have to have the instruments of people also that are in touch with that metaphysical levels. But in our materialistic society, these spiritual matters are having the taboo. Taboo means, and for nothing has changed in the Middle Ages. There were also certain taboos. So our today's taboo is to talk about these spiritual forces. If somebody words the name of God or angels or hierarchies or any kind of spiritual entities, they says, he's not supposed to talk about this. That is supposed not to exist. So that is always coming in the background. But for people that really want to know the truth, they have to cross over that taboo zone, so to speak, in order to find out what really happens. So we know from old teachings that there is certain forces, and Rudolf Steiner, he describes it very nicely in his very elaborate writings, that there is certain kind of forces, spiritual forces. One of them is called Lucifer, another one is called Satan, that we know all from the Bible. And that is two different beings. So it's what they call Lucifer is what they commonly say the devil, and Ahriman, that comes from the Persian Agramanyu, that is commonly pronounced as Satan. And these forces, they have the intention to create a parallel universe. So they want to, they say, we don't want this God's idea of making human being independent and used with a higher self, that they can become the 10th hierarchy to help God in his universe as a self-ruled and a self-governed entity. We want the human being as our robot, as a kind of like a machine-like existence biologically, of course, with body and all, but they should have a collective thinking. They should not independently think. They should not find out the truth of a situation, but simply they should operate in our will. So that kind of a universe without freedom, that is their goal. And in this universe, we still are, fortunately. A human being has a chance to develop by an act of his free will to go in that kind of state of development where he becomes an independent, autark, self-ruled human being. And of course, that the negative beings want to undermine, and that is their goal. And all these shadow governments and all these negative shadow people, they work sort of as employees of this of Ahriman.
So that is basically we have to fight for our development. So it is not a gift; it is a real task for us to achieve this, right?
Of course, yeah. It's a battle. It's a battlefield. Like we have to fight. We have to have an inner freedom and an outer freedom. And both are being threatened today. Our inner freedom is threatened by when we have all these kind of negative impulses within us, which we can decide by consciousness is the one that should decide of whether we should give in or whether we should say, no, we don't follow that kind of negative thoughts, which is being pressed in our head. So, but we follow sort of like a moral kind of thought which we feel in harmony with, and we feel much better when we follow the moral kind of way to behave. We feel in harmony with the whole universe, and when we follow the egotistic kind of pattern of behavior, we feel in disharmony, and that disharmony comes in pain and in stress and distress, and so that is a sort of like a common kind of phenomenon which everybody can observe when he gives in to the wrong thoughts or when he gives in to the right thoughts. Everybody can observe that.
Yeah, but there's also the fear factor. Many people are fearing, the force, the mistreatment, the suppressing, the death, what have you. Which is expressed, what we can identify every day in our lives, like the terrorist threat, the military, the war, the police, and what have you, which is trying to harm us. Why is that, and what can we do against this?
Well, these influences are there, but we have to decide whether we give in into it. I'd say that, of course, these negative forces are always there. They have been there always. And when we make a compromise with them, we are degrading us. We cannot stand upright against ourselves and look into the mirror in the morning and say we've done a good job. When we give in to these forces, it is degrading to us as well as to those forces, because that is like a betrayal of our cosmic heritage, so to speak.
Yeah, but still, I mean, yeah, I understand. We have to make a decision for ourselves, but we are tempted once in a while because we are sort of either corrupted already, you know, from the very beginning.
Right.
So where's the limit? And this is the difficult question for everybody, you know, maybe even listening, you know, to take this right decision.
I give you an example. If somebody would say, some of these shadow government person come to you now, says, Detlef, I give you 10 millions, you close your shop, go to an island, go to some island and keep your mouth shut for the rest of your life. Then it's a decision which can be tempting, isn't it? 10 million's not bad. And but then on the other hand, you would say, listen, I cannot close my shop. I help so many people to become conscious and think over things, and I'm doing a sort of like I'm part of a cosmic evolutionary program. And how can I sort of stop my activities for $10 million or francs or whatever?
Yeah, I'm not commercial, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's commerce is not my business.
So they wouldn't succeed in stopping your intentions, isn't it? So that's
True.
also a decision you make. You say, no, keep your 10 millions and then get out. That's probably what you tell them.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not
So
interested.
yeah. So everybody has to make a decision like that, whether they compromise. And when they make the first door open of a compromise, then it's very difficult to go out of that again. It's a vicious circle, and we're being ruled by these vicious circles, unfortunately. They have constructed a really elaborately, militarily sophisticated structure of vicious circles around us, which are there to trap us. Basically, it's like these flies and the light. You know, sometimes they have these violet lights for the bugs and all. They come inside, and later they get electrified and electrocuted. So It's the same thing. They have created a circle around us of this vicious circle, and only when you are very alert and very wakey, and so to speak, very you cannot sleep any moment of it, and then you can get away with it without being harassed by them. But as soon as you a little bit give in or become inert, and that is our one of our biggest sins in today's society, we're being inert. Inertia is a very predominant kind of state of mind, unfortunately, and the TV and that somnambulist kind of medias which are there, they help us in that way. So we have to be alert, and then we are not affected by all these kind of vicious circles. But it's a difficult task, indeed.
Yeah, and I always wonder, and for many people who are not familiar with the spiritual knowledge or interest even in spiritual things, they have difficulty understanding that this system has certainly not been developed by a Mr. Rockefeller or a Mr. Rothschild. Even if you look at them, you just can't believe that this is coming out of his mind. We also know that this dominant insane minority, as I call them, the DIMS, which are these 10 or whatever families who are ruling the world currently, that they basically are inbreds as well. So, they might not be those who have, originated those ideas. So where is it coming from? Where has this very clever, military style, vicious circle structure being developed? Who is behind this?
Well, that's a very elaborate question, so to speak, and it asks for elaborate answers.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, I know.
Well, I mean, to make it short, I don't know whether, but it loses of kind of a. Well, anyhow, I try to do it. Basically, when you look in history, I mentioned already that Machiavelli, and I mentioned earlier, I think this Huxley in America and Taotl and all these negative occult centers. And in olden times, always the ruling people, they were in connection with the spiritual beings. They had direct one-to-one, face-to-face connection with these spiritual beings. And of course, according to their moral development, they were in touch with good beings or not so good beings. And these not so good beings, of course, they were giving them instructions of how to act, what to do, and how to operate. So it was all passed down intuitively into the heads and into the heads of the priests of that kind of mystery centers, which they had at that time. As well as the good forces and the good beings also did that likewise with their kind of followers. I wouldn't say followers, with all their human beings that they had. And with the negative beings, I would say it was their followers. Because the good forces, they want to do, they respected human individuality and free will. That is what differentiates the good forces from the evil forces. Evil forces don't care about your free will. They outrule it. They octroyize your will, and they make you like a zombie. They will impose their will on you without asking you.
So they actually don't want us as human competitors. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they want to use us as tools.
Yeah,
nothing else.
Not as competition. Yeah.
No, we should be like a tool. Like when you use a screwdriver, you want that screw in or out or something, and you don't want the screwdriver to ask questions, isn't it?
Sure.
So same there. So the good people and the good forces, they had to answer questions to human beings. And why do you do that? How is it going? And that's actually a very good thing that the common people also can apply. Why is something in today's world structures the way it is? Why is there a president? Why are there elections held? Why is there industry? Why do we have to go for work every day? Why we cannot leisurely live without going for work and have another system? Why we have this system and not another one? Why are the things? That is a very important question. And everybody that was involved in philosophy, that is the first and foremost important questions that everybody has to ask is why. Every child can do it, and every child does it. You know, when you have a 3, 4, 5-year-old child, it says, "Oh, Papa, why is this tree green and why is this like that?" And sometimes you reach your limits. But I think that's an inert, in our human nature, that's an inert kind of thing. And that also these shadow governments and these shadow forces have tried to eradicate from our biological program. So that's why we have to foster that question again. And everybody that is today's living society, and they have not been actually able to study philosophy or do spiritual kind of studies, they can ask the question why. And that will automatically lead them towards getting interested in history. You know, history is also very important, and you find out first you go to history. From history you can go to philosophy, and from philosophy eventually you can go to the spiritual realm. So it is all like step by step.
Yeah, so we have to rediscover basically the way to ask questions. Is that the one?
Yeah, exactly. That is what we have to do. And then quite naive, you know, when you look in in Wagner's Lohengrin and Siegfried and all these kind of stories. There's the question. He goes to that monastery. He doesn't ask the questions why Amfortas has pain. Why Amfortas has the pain. He doesn't ask it. He's not matured enough. Later, after years, he comes back. Then he's asking the question. And then a process is starting. A process of self-reflection and self-knowledgement. So we still, some people, unfortunately, have to work on our maturity. That is the whole issue that will always come up. Maturity is the key point. The central point.
Yeah, but that leads to the following question: how do we do it? I mean, not everybody is is capable of studying by himself or herself all the things which you might have studied, because it takes a lot of time, a lot of interest, and but is there another way to not fall in the trap of a religion, or just follow one idea, or one system? But how can a human being try to to get to this maturity development?
Yeah, maturity of consciousness, that's the key issue. And unfortunately, there is you cannot get it without a price. You have to pay the price. The price is interest. You have to be interested in such things like history and why are things the way they are. If you don't want to pay that price, you don't get the answers. And then you live in oblivion and ignorance. And if that's what you want, but of course, every soul is unhappy in that state of mind. Ignorance and oblivion makes you unhappy. And that's why a lot of people suffer, but they don't know why. Of course, their soul knows in some of a dim way and diffused way that there is something else which they have no access to that makes them unhappy. And if, for instance, some more developed people can find out, there is a spiritual cosmos and you can establish connection with it, and that is giving a feeling of radiance and sun and positive outlook, and your soul is vibrating and your soul is like igniting. And every human being, because we have that heritage from God, everybody has that spark, and that spark wants to be nurtured. And if he doesn't get any kind of food, it makes the whole soul, the whole human being that lives in that conscious state of mind of oblivion and ignorance, he will be unhappy. And unhappiness is the grounds again for aggression. And aggression is the grounds for war. So it's all a vicious circle. So it all rounds up,
Yeah, that's why, part of our material society, also the objectives that you have to become rich in order to live good and to feel well. That is also not true, because there are many people who are rich or who have enough money to survive and to live a good living. They are not really happy. It is not the happiness which you can buy or which you can get through a lot of money. And lots of, examples are there. So that is a good proof that, we have to, in order to achieve a happiness, we have to choose another route. So we the richness or money or, this is not the right way to become happy. Is that correct so far? What do you think?
Well, I mean, material things, of course, we have to have a basic living that we can actually do lavishly if we live according to the cosmic plan, because the whole cosmos belongs to us, to every human being. That is also not the case today. If I say I claim a certain place of land and I want to build a house there, I will definitely won't succeed for a long time. Which is incorrect, because nobody actually produced that land, or that is common ground, so to speak, and it should not be occupied or There should not be any property of a particular piece of land. But anyhow, I'd say we could live lavishly with the common goods, and God wants us to live in harmony and to live with the basic kind of necessities that we need. That doesn't mean we have to have luxury, but we should have a decent life, and that God would guarantee also. There is enough there for everybody. But what makes a human being is that he is connecting with this transcendent kind of parts of his sphere, because a human being is more than just a body. And that is the major mistake, because human people identify with their body. They don't identify with their soul and their emotions, because if they were to identify with their soul, they would find out that they're not time-bound, that they have this long stretched band of eternity, which they can find, and in which they can find their identity. That is in eternity, and eternity is not time-bound. So basically, human being is a non-time-bound entity, and they have to develop it. And they are becoming much more aware and self-asserted if they have that kind of identity. What can get to them? They know they live ever, forever. They have been forever, and they're going to be there forever. So whatever happens is a different of state, but that are going to have different stages of their development, whether they're living or dead. It's a degree of state. You have a body, you're like a sponge. Body is like your sponge, and the soul is the water. So you dip that sponge into the water, then the soul goes inside, and the spirit also. The spirit, I would make a reference of being gas, so in that kind of model. So that sponge is filled with the water and gas. And when the body dies, you wring that sponge out, and the water goes out, and the gas goes out, and the body decays. But that water and that gas is still there. So, and that water and gas has still a structure of individuality. You're still Detlef in that gas form in that water stage. So that is not dissolving.
It's a very good example. I mean, this is, a striking example. Yeah, sure.
And you can keep that identity, and that identity again will lead you to a next incarnation in the purpose to fulfill your perfection. You're there, of course, when you're there in the cosmic spheres, then you go to different planets or different stars, different entities where you can meet basically to form your perfection. And you're drawn to that entities and that species and that beings which will help you to become more perfect. And when you have reached a certain state where you're ready for a next incarnation, then you're there with certain beings that are preparing that body, help you to prepare your new body, helping to search the parents and all that kind of thing. Then you come down for your next mission. And if everybody's aware of that kind of a long-term consciousness, then nothing can get to them, because then they know that they're in safe heaven. And that is what they're trying to take away from us. They want to make us panicky and take away that safe heaven feeling that what everybody should have, and everybody actually has it. But he has to reestablish it. And that's actually what the real form of religion should do. They should reestablish that kind of eternal existence in us and bring back, and of course, in a higher stage of, further stage of development, you should do meditations in order to have action, to have a direct connection with these entities and beings through your dream life and through your thought life and your feeling life. So this, that is then of course a higher degree of development. But that's what in the mystery centers, in its mystery schools, and have been through all big cultures. Whether you start in India, they had the rishis, where they were cultivating that kind of a connection with this, through meditation, through certain kind of exercises. And what do you exercise? What do you have? You have the feelings, you have your thoughts, and you have your will impulses, your willpower. And that is with all these three you work, you model it. And basically what they're trying to do is the negative shadow governments, they want that we don't model those forces which are the cosmic key, our entrance key for a cosmic eternity. And of course, that they want to avoid. Because if we become mature, self-autark individuals ruled by free will, then they lose all their power. They can pack in, they have to go, they have to bend down and escape into one dark part of this universe. And that's not what they want to do.
So it's a struggle for survival for them in order. Yeah, but they have actually they have lost already, haven't they?
Well, of course, they're fighting fiercely now because they feel something is at stake. We're in a turning point of time presently. A turning point of time means more and more people wake up. They see that constellation and the things are being at stake. And of course, also their shadow government people, they get panicky and they contact these lower beings in order to attain certain kind of powers. And they do all kind of rites and secrets in the background in order to avoid that kind of thing. But for that, we can say that the Christ, he has made it impossible for them to go past a certain kind of limit. He has given them the frame of reference that you can work from here to there, but you don't go beyond, because in that way we are protected by the good forces.
Yeah, and this makes us even stronger once we identify this. And there have been Christians in the past, I mean, who were really absolutely without any fear, and they even were, self-destructing by, fighting against lions in Rome, in front of the evil forces and so forth. So they didn't care because they knew they cannot be destroyed. Is this a good example, or?
Yeah, I mean, from the history of the big saints, I mean, very developed human beings, very much established human beings. They even you think about in Paris, the Montmartre, there was a saint, I forgot his name, unfortunately now, and they had a trial to be beheaded on top of the Montmartre. And these personnel, so to speak, the guards and all that, people that had to do the job, they were afraid because they could feel they have a sort of like a magical force around them. And they were having fear that they're going to do something, because they could feel that power, that spiritual power. So they beheaded them on the way. And what happened, that saintly person, he bent down, he was beheaded, then he bent down, took his head in his arm and his hands and placed it in the middle of his hands and walked up to the actual place where it should have been happening, that whole beheading on top of Montmartre. So that shows you how potent these positive spiritual forces can be.
Yeah, well, that's an incredible story. Yeah, I mean, but we need more of this courage today. I mean, if you read history and if you understand history, we don't know whether everything is being correctly, written down, and but still, those evil forces were there all the time. Is that correct? So even at times of Babylon and the Roman Empire and so forth, they were there already. Is that the correct understanding?
Oh yeah, a long time before. I mean, Rudolf Steiner explains it in his Occult Science. He says in a sun development, that is, so to speak, previous incarnations of this earth, one can speak it. There was a Saturn incarnation where there was only gas, the most dense kind of material. Then there was warmth, excuse me. There was this Saturn development where only warmth was the densest kind of physical, noticeable object. And then comes the sun evolution where there was gas, the most dense kind of things. Then comes the moon incarnation where the water was the most dense kind of thing. And then comes the earth where the mineral substances, what we have now, is the most the dense kind of matter. And these evil beings, they branched off already in the sun evolution. That is a relatively early. I mean, Ahriman branched off in the sun evolution, and Lucifer branched off in the moon lunar evolution and the lunar incarnation of this earth. And so, actually, according to Steiner, Lucifer is already half redeemed, because he's also using as a helper between the realm when souls are dying. I mean, after death, when these souls leave the body, in that way, Lucifer is doing a good job, because he leads the human being towards the sun, towards the Christ. He's actually like a, how shall I say,
a ferryman, sort of.
Yeah, he's a ferryman, and he brings the people and shows them the direction to go towards the Christ. So, but Ahriman, he is not redeemed yet, and he is the more dangerous kind of force of the two. Even though other one also can be dangerous, Lucifer is also dangerous because he has his own traps. But it goes too far when I go into the kind of a, if I explain that kind of situation. But I'd say that this Ahriman is much more dangerous, and now in today's society, he's the more predominant force, and we have to be attentive of, because he's also now next due to incarnate in a physical form. Like Lucifer did in old China. He was incarnating as a form, as a king. He was incarnating. I think it was about a couple of 5,000-6,000 years BC. And of course, Christ was incarnating. We know the dates. And then, of course, Ahriman is due to incarnate in the year of 3000. But as we know, that the nature of Ahriman is to do things prematurely. So he can come up, and Steiner even mentions it, he can incarnate any time when he finds it's most to his advantage.
But there must be a plan which says that, the good forces should take over, or isn't there such a plan? I mean, that's how I understand, for instance, the Bible. At least the New Testament with John's revelation and so forth, that there will be a time when good will take over. Is this the final plan, or is there any other plan which you could describe?
Well, there is no taking over, because it's up on our freedom, act of freedom. We are beings that should apply our act of freedom. However we steer around, whether we steer to left or to right, that's what's going to happen. And that's why it's so important that we become mature, and that we know what is our role in the game. So we should be self-aware and responsible, that we take up our responsibility as human beings. We should not be useless fleas sitting on the earth, that we don't accomplish our goal. And the whole cosmos would have a gigantic abortion of our kind, and what is all connected to us. That would be horrible. But we should wake up according what our mission is, and then act accordingly, responsibly, and then there is no taking over, because then there is what we initiate that will bear the fruit. And that's the difference between the negative and evil forces. Evil forces are taking over. They don't ask. They simply come. And good forces are asking, can I come into your house? Do you welcome me as a guest? Okay, then I come. But these evil forces, they break the doors and come through windows. And so that's why we are important. We are not a piece of dust in a universe. We are interconnected to the utmost of kernel forces of the universe, with everything, with the good as well as the evil. And we are there to decide whom we give our energy, whom we give our time, and whom we give our attention to.
Now, obviously, I'm asking you questions and always expecting answers. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you know everything. But Yeah, I mean, is there another way of living apart from what we're experiencing in on Earth? I mean, we are now here in a training field, sort of, or a development field where good and evil are being sort of separated. Is this the same thing all over the universe, or are there other universes where things are completely different? Or is this all the same sort of method? That's what I'm after.
Well, what is different, that's why they call it the relativity of consciousness. The basic theme is the same all across the universe. This development of a spiral kind of development of a higher development is throughout valid throughout the universe. But what differs and what varies is the consciousness. So that's why this whole theory, I call it the theory of relativity of consciousness, because it is a matter and a piece of art of tuning in our consciousness to these other universal kind of stages of consciousness. But the reality is such that all the different consciousness, they sum up to that basic theme and structure which I mentioned before.
Yeah. But let's get back again here to our 3D dimension. So we are in the third dimension, right? Now we can see ourselves only in one piece, but still we are just a frequency. We're just sort of atoms. We are most basically water. So we can only sort of look through a certain through certain glasses. We're not able to see everything and identify everything. So this makes it very difficult for us as 3D beings for the time being to develop. Or do I see this in a wrong perspective?
No, from your perspective is completely correct. But we can leave our 3D. That's what meditation and these initiative programs that have been throughout history is there to leave that 3D perspective. That is why you have meditations. That is the goal for all the meditations, to leave that body perspective, that 3D perspective. And that is what true religion is actually all about. That you do certain exercises, that you leave your conscious activity, your consciousness leaves your body and basically leaves out and goes into the cosmos. That is actually what everybody can attain. That is our cosmic godly gift and heritage, what every human being has as a potential. But unfortunately, very few are making use of it.
So we are trapped in a certain way into our third dimension. We are also trapped in our lust and our, all these evil things to a certain extent, because, willingly or unwillingly, we adapted this. Well, I mean, lust is part of our biology as well, isn't it? I mean, to a certain extent, our biology is also trapping us. That makes it pretty difficult, doesn't it?
Well, as I mentioned before, there is inner freedom and outer freedom. That goes in the category of inner freedom. If you say, okay, what do I want? Do I want to be trapped by anything? Or do I want to temporarily trapped? Or do I say, okay, I accept this trap for a certain point in a certain limit, but I am the one that sets the rules. And I can say, okay, for the actors of procreation and that kind of thing, I accept it, and also for a certain healthy state of harmony of mind, I accept it that these forces are taking over. But I set the limits. I can say, hey, stop now, good enough. Here is the line, and but when it comes to the stake that if I have to give up a higher force as cost as to subdue or to indulge into a lower form, then I must make a crucial decision. And I say, do I give up the so to speak, do I give up the faculty to have interconnection with our higher cosmic beings and have that kind of a much higher and much more energizing kind of feeling for the sake of a lower kind of feeling, then it is a matter of choice, and we have the freedom to do that. But it's up to everyone to make that kind of decision.
Yeah, that's why, humankind has sort of a good conscience, sort of, that is the limiter, or but there seem to be people as well who don't have a good conscience.
Well, they have
a sore conscience, possibly.
Well, everybody has a conscience, of course, otherwise he wouldn't be human. But of course, they subdued it and they ignored it, and they sort of. But it makes them also very unhappy. If I ignore my conscience, if I don't listen to it, I become unhappy and hard, and harsh. So these kind of people feel very unhappy, and you can see it when you go through the bigger cities. You can see that kind of people in the faces when you see them in a tram or in the trains or in the airplanes or whatever. You can see such people when you go to the big city streets. So it doesn't make them happy. I can only feel happy, or everybody, human being, can feel happy if I am in harmony with these forces, and if I am the pilot of all these forces. I don't want to be remote controlled by any kind of biological program. I say, hey, who is the boss here? I am the boss, and I want to feel happy. And sometimes I want to have these lower forces. They're welcome, and I give them a certain stage to act upon, which they can act. But I tell them also when to go. It's like in the theater, in the theater play, the Shakespeare. Of course, all these characters have to come to stage at a certain time, and they're also obliged to leave at a certain time, and they're being told by the metteur en scène. What is it in English? The regie, the one that is
the director.
The director of the play. He's telling them when to go, when to come, and when to go, and that's what we all in our today's life we should be: the director of all these characters that go on stage, and we have to be the boss. And
Go ahead.
As soon as they become try to be the boss and try to be dominant, then when things go out of hand, and that's when we have to intercept.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically everything is written down in paper, at least, that we are the sovereign, that we are the people, and that we are the boss, but the action is in a different way. So that's, so we have to take it back, and we don't have to consent to what they are telling us. That's what you're saying, right?
Well, we have to give them the direction. Say, you come now, you can do this. This is your program. I'll give you the free frame of reference here to act from here to there. Don't go beyond here. Don't go beyond there. This is your place. Go and do your thing.
Yeah, they should be treated as our good dog.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
That's a very good example. Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying this here over here, but they are not very happy with that. Basically, they're not used to that.
I think they appreciate it because they know that through our act of we transform them. We give them a certain kind of cultivation program. When I speak it in material terms, we give them a certain of cultivation program. We even make them nicer. We make them more beautiful. Because in the spiritual realm, all evil things have ugly faces. All good things have clean and, so to speak, transparent faces. And so to speak, when you see a spirit in the spiritual realm, which is really evil and ugly, he's very black and ugly and not transparent. Where you see when you see a good being, it is all very shiny through, very much radiant, and very much aesthetically beautiful. So these beings also, which we just talked about, when we play the good director, in analogy to our example, then we make them more beautiful, and actually also we help them to fulfill their role in evolution.
Yeah. Do you think the evil force, which we call evil forces, like the chaps from the system, do they have the same choice? I mean, do they have the same possibility to develop, the same way as we do?
Well, it's very difficult when you talk about these black magicians, if that's what you want to, that's what you mean. Mm-hmm. These black magicians give up deliberately, as a free act of will and a free choice, their own parts of their own identity. So they become basically a remote controlled tool for these negative forces. And they do that deliberately, and they think somehow they can get away with it. But, it's very difficult to talk into a psychology of a black magician, because it's very difficult to judge, to make a judgment upon. But basically, they give up their identity. And when you give up your identity as an act, deliberately as an act of free will, then you have no longer access to that thing. And in order to go backwards, suppose this black magician has decided he doesn't want to go further, he wants to go back. There is a way out. He can do that, but it's very difficult, because then this negative feeling says, hey, you have made the pledge. You said you give up your free will. Now we try to grab you. And now you don't let you go so easily. And it's a very much difficult way to back up for that particular individual. It is possible with the help of God and the Christ and the positive beings. It is possible, but it's not an easy game.
So once you sold your soul, it's over, sort of, almost.
Not over, because you can see the history of Goethe's Faust, for example. Yeah. It is possible, but it's something very difficult, and I wouldn't like to be in that kind of role of that particular individual, because they try to grab you at all ends and wherever they can get you, and it is not easy. And they're very intelligent. They know how to apply their forces at your weakest spots and try to grab you that way. And you have to have a lot of humility, to develop humility and to develop love to get out of that kind of trap.
Oh, well. Yeah, but, never give up. I'm always telling people also out of this, working for the system, try your best, try at least to say that you have tried. Okay, we are almost through with our part here, Michael, and I'm very glad you could join in and give us some insight of your knowledge and your explanation of what is really going on behind the curtains. Mm-hmm. Not saying you know everything, but you know a lot.
I think it's very difficult, and we have to be humble enough to tell that what we know is very, very little. What we know, and but what counts is that we're on the way. We want to know more, and also human beings is the intention of what counts is their intentions, not the outcome so much. If the beings, the good people, they see the human being has a good intention, but he failed, still they acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And that is a positive point. And that's why I say what counts in today's world, we have to really develop love for our human fellow beings, for animals. Actually, basically, I cannot see how any decent human being in this world can live by eating the meat of all our fellow beings that live in the world. So, because it causes pain, and it's the psychology of a pirate that says and claims, or to fill my stomach, I kill another entity, another being. So just there we should see that we give up that kind of brutal and primitive way of behaving, because we don't need to actually live from other animals and other beings. We can live out from the plants, and there is a good diet that doesn't cause any pain to any being. And that is something which should start off, because when we kill and create death, we eat that death. And we are there to foster life in this universe, not to foster death. And we have to start at a particular level where in our everyday contemporary life, we can reduce that force of death by just changing our diet, for example, as a start. So less evil is there, because every death that's being created creates demons. And every slaughterhouse is a birthplace for a whole legion of demons. And if we can stop that, that will be already something positive. Of course, it has to be done in the right frame of mind, that we wish that the good and the thriving of all creatures that are on this earth, and that of course doesn't go along with the butchering and eating of other beings, you know.
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting topic as well to go through. But we are at the end of our part now, and we will be heading to the next break. And I do very much appreciate your input here, Michael, and hope we have you back one day when another opportunity here in our UNITEDWESTRIKE Radio Marathon. Yes, and I encourage you, listeners, if you want to have some more information from Michael, you can do this through my email. I'll forward this on to him. Just send me an email through radio@wakenews.net. Yeah, thanks. Last word to our audience, Michael, if you wish.
Yeah, I want to say the audience that I feel sometimes pity that all we talk is all incomplete, because we're all subject to that kind of physical forces here, where we can talk and cannot bring the entire tune completely there. And it's in a way a tragedy that we cannot be complete and all encompassing all these questions that everybody has at a particular time. We can do it bit by bit and step by step, and still it makes me happy that we have that possibility to do step by step. But most all important is that we create that love for our fellow human beings, love for the universe, and that we have a positive attitude towards everything that is outside of us, because that we are trapped inside our head, and what is inside and what is outside, that we have this barrier. This is me, that is the rest of the world. That is the biggest illusion that these negative beings have created in us. And so we have to overcome that, so that what is outside, we also encompass it with love and with respect, as much as we respect ourselves, and that in the same way we love ourselves.
That's a good word in the end. So thanks a lot, Michael, and we will be heading to our break here, and we will be listening to Neil Fox's F.K, the Fed, which is sort of expressing our disgust towards the fiat monetary system. And and then we will be handing over to our next segment, which will be coming up after the hour. So stay tuned. This is going to be very interesting. Thanks a lot, Michael. And
Sure.
Stay tuned. Stay on the line, please. And we'll talk in the break while I'm, getting us here into our next segment. So stay tuned. We will be right back for everybody to listen. So this is Detlef, Awakenings Radio, Awakenings TV, in our United We Strike Radio Marathon.
You're listening to UnitedWeStrike.com radio on the International Community Radio Network.
Precisely why we have to say, the Fed. Now, not too long ago, there was a president who tried. He was about to stick it to the lousy Fed. He made some legal tender, silver-backed in all its splendor. It's unfortunate he ended up dead. Clinton, Bush, Barack Obama, Carter, Reagan, and McCain. We argue who's the best until we drop. But whoever is elected, it all comes out the same till we see that it's the Fed we need to stop. Hey, 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 hey. The Fed. Hey, 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 hey. The Fed. We need a president with balls, no matter white or black or female. Someone more than just another talking head. They have to stand up for our rights. They better read the Constitution when they hear the people cry, F the Fed. So tell your children's children, if we're still around, to tell how depressions were created by a few. How the people lived and suffered while the candidates debated till the people knew exactly